This conference will now be recorded.
Good evening, everyone. This is the December 8th, 2020 meeting of the Kingston Conservation Advisory Council. My name is Julie Noble and I am the chair. And with us today, we have council members Lorraine Farina, Emily Hauser, Kevin McAvoy, myself, Sebastian Pilateri, and we have one guest as well, Marco Spodek. Michelle Hirsch, the Common Council liaison, is excused for today, and Betta Broad is not present. I'm going to call the meeting to order. It is 6:05 p.m. We do have one guest. So Marco, do you have any public comment that you'd like to make?
Hi everyone. I just happy to join and just kind of hear about the goings on in Kingston as far as these matters. And I've been working on some air quality projects with Lorraine and Julie, and excited to hear about / contribute to that portion of the meeting.
Great. Thanks for being here. So are there any modifications to the agenda?
No.
Okay. If not, we need a review and approval of the November 2020 monthly meeting minutes. Does anyone have any comments?
No.
No.
If not, we need a motion to approve the November 10th, 2020 minutes as they are presented.
Motion to accept.
Lorraine, can I have a second?
I second it.
Emily? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Sebastian? We lost you. I'm going to assume if Sebastian is not voting nay, then he is a yay. So that is approved. All right. Thank you, Kevin, for putting that together. All right. So, Lorraine, Air Quality Subcommittee.
Yes, let's see. So the partnership that Marco was just referring to is coming up on 1 full year of having collected air quality data on top of the Andy Murphy building. January 16th will be the anniversary of that. So there have been several analysis team meetings to take a look at the data from the profiler, put it into some kind of form that makes sense for us and the public. And we will be meeting soon, Julie and I, with the team there to discuss all of that. Marco, I don't know if you have anything you want to say about that now.
No, I mean that's about as far as I would go as well. We have our next sort of official Kingston Air Quality Initiative meeting this Friday, where everyone will be brought up to speed on what's going on with the data. And we are in the midst, as the year is rounding out, we're in the midst of getting some new equipment as well, which we are excited to deploy alongside the particle profiler as well, help us start getting some weather data. And that's about it for now, but definitely excited for the 1 year mark.
I can't believe it's already been almost a year.
It's true.
I know.
I don't know that I was aware of the meeting on Friday. Was I supposed to set that up?
Yeah, I was gonna send you a reminder this week or probably tomorrow. I remember we were supposed to meet last Friday, but then we said we would push it to the 11th. I don't know if you remember that.
What time?
It's supposed to be at 10 a.m. Is that possible? We might be able to move it.
Could we possibly move it to 9?
I think that should probably work. I mean, Lorraine, would that work for you?
It would work for me. In fact, there's another webinar I wanted to hop on at 10, so that would actually work well for me.
Yeah, let me shoot out an email. I'll do it first thing in the morning probably to see if we can move it to 9, but I think that should probably work.
Okay, if 9 doesn't work, I could do noon.
Okay.
Awesome, thanks. And then was I setting up, do you want me to set up the call?
I was just going to send out a Zoom link.
Great,
That works.
perfect. All right, great, thank you.
Mhm.
So Marco, have you been able to get into the building? I know that there were some issues with getting into the building with COVID and people not being here.
Yeah, so I was able to get in last week. I need to go back sometime before the end of this week as well. City Hall stopped doing the pre-screen, which I didn't know about until like when I went to go do it. So that's when I just ended up calling you and we worked that out. But I have Lindsay's number. I also have the number to reach Lisa. And I think I'm going to try to start notifying folks like either the day before I want to come or just a little bit with a little more notice now that the screening isn't happening. Because before I would just kind of go and then just show up. But it's fine. I'm trying to get it to the point where I don't have to come as much anymore anyway, because it's cold now. So I almost have this Wi-Fi thing figured out. So it worked solidly for like a couple weeks, but it just went offline today. So I'll have to see what's going on with that. But yeah, no issues.
Okay, and I'm back in the office now, so try me first. It's tough here, you know, sometimes we're all working from home, working from here, but you can continue to try me first, and then if I'm not here, then try with Lisa or Lindsay.
Okay, cool.
Okay. Lauren, anything else?
Yes. Let's see. So there was a family in Kingston who read about the partnership in the Freeman and sent a letter to both Julie and me about wood smoke pollution problem that they're experiencing due to their neighbors' burning of wood. They reported that their health and well-being and that of their children are being affected. So they were expressing frustration with having tried various avenues of redress, such as the fire department and older person, but were told there was nothing that could be done. They made the point in the letter that their neighbors' quote-unquote right to burn wood should not trump their own right to breathe clean air in their home. And they were writing specifically because we were working toward clean air. So I responded with information about our air quality website, invited them to attend a CAC meeting as well as participate in the air quality subcommittee. Haven't gotten a response as yet, but I wanted to mention that BARD had offered to cite an air quality monitor at their residence as part of the partnership, but that's something we would all need to discuss first.
Yeah, so this is something we'll probably discuss once we have our meeting on Friday. But we just, as part of the Open Society University Network grant that we received earlier this year, we were able to purchase some more low-cost particulate monitors, and so we just got a couple of them in today, in fact. So the plan as of now is to be able to have these sort of on reserve to distribute to folks like this who contact us with issues. And this is probably something that wouldn't start officially until next year, but the ideal situation is we are able to sort of give folks one of these monitors. They put it up in their house. We look at the data. We see, okay, there's some spikes in PM 2.5 these days, or like at this time of day, and we sort of then start to sort of tease out a relationship with them that and build some data that we can use to make a case. So that is coming along. We just got those monitors in today, and if they work well, we'll probably be buying some more. So
Great.
we'll have like a whole kind of fleet.
Can I ask a question about the monitors?
Sure.
Maybe this is naive, but does dust show up on PM 2.5?
Lorraine?
I'm sorry, what was the question? Does
Dust.
dust show up? I haven't found that to be the case, but I mean, personally speaking here, because inside my house, I will have zero a lot of the time, and I must say I don't have zero dust, so I don't think so.
Okay, so we've been spending a lot of time at home and making a lot of pillow forts and jumping in pillow forts a lot. And when that happens during the day and it's sunny, I just see dust flying around. But my PM 2.5 levels are like 2.
It might be lower than PM 2.5 might be smaller than the dust particles that you're seeing into the air, but maybe someone else can.
I do know that this is all anecdotal and my personal experience, but when I visited the air quality class at Bard a couple of times, they were using the monitors there. Marco, maybe you remember this, outdoors to look at road dust and dust that was kicked up by kids running on a dirt path, let's say. And there was activity registered on the monitors, but I cannot remember if it was the 2.5 or maybe the PM10. I don't know. I don't remember.
Okay. Yeah, it's actually, I mean, it's a good thing for us to kind of find out and figure out, because even on a windy day, there could be dust particles that, are calculated. I just don't know how dust or sand, visible. I mean, PM 2.5 is micro. You can't see it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, I'm no expert on this, and surely Lorraine, you probably have more information than I do, but just my intuition is that dust falls more into sort of like the PM10 and above category than PM 2.5, because it's like, we're talking like 1/30th the width of a human hair. So, it definitely wouldn't be nearly as visible. And so dust also settles out of the air much faster than things that are smaller. So it's possible you might see them poof up, but they don't stay aloft long enough for your monitor to pick them up.
Okay.
I guess we could have a pillow jumping contest right in front of the monitor, and then look at the results immediately and see if anything changes. That's what I'll do.
Something that I do, I have seen is spikes in particulate matter when I had the monitor in my house. Was around cooking times, and I think with like frying, like if you're frying or making something in the oven.
Yes.
So yeah, I would keep an eye out around those times specifically.
Right, and that's what we've thought about as far as the impact from like coffee roasting, in particular to the Annie Murphy Center, if we were going to be able to see results from that.
Yeah, and the Annie Murphy Center data are showing a lot of variability to a degree that it'd be very difficult to be able to say with a degree of confidence that we're picking something up from coffee roasting. But I mean, certainly there's a lot of spikes and events that we can try to sort of investigate.
I do see, personally speaking, again, here indoors, if I run the toaster oven, let's say, I definitely see a spike. So that certainly registers. But dust I haven't noticed.
Okay. Well, I guess it's food for thought.
Yeah.
Anything else on air quality? Anything else, Lorraine or Marco?
Yeah, anything, Marco? I have some more, but go right ahead if you have anything else.
No, nothing. Nothing else for now. I think maybe after this Friday, we'll probably have some more updates.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to attend an Environmental Law Institute webinar that's called Remarkable Cities and the Fight Against Climate Change this week. And they sent me other information, and Emily did as well, and I thank her for that, regarding other ones that they have going. And one looks particularly relevant. It has to do with compliance and enforcement, and citizen science monitors, low-cost monitoring. So I have the link to listen to some of the others they've done in the past, and I'm planning to try to go to that one as well. I'll report back. I wanted to raise the issue of the development that's been in the Freeman at Hutton Brickyards that has grown in size and scope, and that the Freeman reported recently that there will be 31 cabins, each having a fire pit and fireplaces, as well as a restaurant with a large wood-fired oven. So I want to say that I believe this is counter to our air quality subcommittee mission statement, because these devices will certainly be polluting the air surrounding them for the residents of Kingston, as well as potentially affecting the health of the Hudson River with the emissions of PM 2.5, as well as the toxic chemicals such as benzene, formaldehyde, nitrogen oxide, which are the components of wood smoke. So I wanted to ask you all what the next step might be for us on that, what your thoughts are. I know, Julie, you had sent the legislation, I'm not naming it properly, but the legislation regarding Conservation Advisory Board. And there seemed to be a relevant part in there, which Michelle also sent something about, having to do with offering alternative ideas. When development comes up that may be counter to our mission. So anybody have any on this? Or
Lorraine, I don't think the planning agenda has been published yet for, I think it's December 21st, but I think it has to come before the planning board and comments could be made.
Okay.
Irregardless of whether we were a board or not, which we won't be by December 21st, even if we want to be. But we can still make comments to the planning board.
Okay. If anybody else has any comments on this, I mean, I would be willing to write something with a little assistance maybe from you.
Wait, I do. I'm sorry for interrupting.
Go ahead.
You know, I think you've been on the committee long enough to know that we do make comments on development. And so I think that you could even word it as such, like not asking should we or could we, don't ask could. This is, we have a long record of commenting on development, and it doesn't have anything to do with whether we're a board and what you just spoke about in terms of the board. We have a long record of commenting on things. For instance, so I just want to make that clear that that it's not necessary to ask.
Okay.
Because that's what we do. We are not a board, and just because we're being recorded and this is on record, we are not a board, but we have many times commented on development, whether it's the a site in a floodplain. We've commented on that twice. We've commented on the Rubco development. Just to make sure that they're doing sustainable things and are protecting, protecting the land.
Yes.
Yeah, and just to Emily's point, I mean, there's not a question about whether we can or cannot comment, but we would have to agree as a board. And somebody would just bring it forward, and then we would talk as a board whether or not we would want to make comments. So that would be your question here. Asking.
That was my question. Yes, that was my question. So would I come up with some sort of comments, potential comments first, and then ask you all whether you agree on them, or how would we go about it?
We should decide now whether or not we want to make comments. We could talk about potential comments. You would then draft those up, and then we would review that to then pass on.
Okay. The last part I didn't hear. And then
you would take those comments that we discussed. You would draft that into a letter. We would review the letter. You would finalize it, get it to me, and I would submit it to the planning board as official comments.
Okay. All right.
And as a CAC member, you don't even have to do this alone. You first of all have a committee, and there's other members on the CAC. We often collaborate on the letter, not just one person writing it, but maybe two people writing it and then bringing it to the commission.
So any offers or thoughts on that?
I'm just reading the article again from the Freeman, just went back, and yeah, it says it is going to be on the agenda for December 21st.
December, okay. 21st.
So then if we were to submit comments, it would behoove us to do so prior to that.
Yes, I don't think they allow comment at the meeting itself.
Sebastian, did you have something to say?
I just wanted to ask for more. Can someone send around the Daily Freeman article and just the copy of the text?
Yeah, I'll let me make it a PDF. I have it as a text document. I just cut and pasted the text into.
And just to be clear, the difference is just that they're going to have the campfires at the 31 sites. The 31 sites were already proposed, or is there an increase in sites as well as there now being campfires?
Increase in numbers of cabins for one thing.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, there could be a sewage angle that would be interesting, I think, to talk about. So yeah, Lorraine, I'd be interested in helping you out if I can.
You said there could be a what? I missed one word.
Sewage. I don't know if they're hooked up to sewer there or not. Are they?
Sewers? Did you say sewers? I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Yeah.
You know what's interesting? Literally in the last hour, I was on a call with somebody and asking that exact same question. I do not know the answer to that.
Okay.
So typically, in a
Thought
situation,
they did.
Okay.
Yeah, something could have changed, but I remember this coming up when they first needed a special permit. And when they had Smorgasburg and they were putting the bathrooms in, like where was the sewage going to go? And I think it goes out to North Street.
I know they are currently digging trenches along the side of the road, so I don't know if they're putting in conduit or something else. But typically, I mean, the key to a letter like this is that we go beyond the emotional and go to according to our climate action plan, or according to this legislation, or according to this policy. And we typically cite something, whether it's something that we all have agreed upon, legislation or something else that we're citing it. So that gives clout to whatever we're saying as well. So like if we have something in our code that says, campgrounds are not permitted, or, campfires at campgrounds are not permitted, or whatever. I don't know the code offhand. So that sort of thing. But if we want to additionally address other concerns. We haven't put in comments about Hutton Brickyards as a whole. That's sort of a different, I mean, Sebastian is bringing up a different issue, not different, but an additional issue. So I don't know, we should have a discussion about that. Generally, if people want to submit comments, and if we do, if we want to submit them broader than air quality.
Okay, so
I would say if we are going to submit comments, that we should submit them broader than air quality, because we haven't ever just focused on one issue in the past. When we have commented on a development, it has been our concerns are this, this, and this.
So there could be stormwater management, it could be solid waste and recycling, or energy conservation. We have a checklist somewhere where we've kind of gone through.
It's in the comp plan.
It's in the comprehensive plan. So I haven't really thought about this site either, but you know, those are some of the things that we've done before. And of course, this is different in the sense that it's temporary structures for the most part.
Okay, so I'm hearing from several folks here interested in writing a letter. Can I have a motion then that to that effect, that the CAC would draft and submit a letter in review of the development at Hutton Brickyards to the planning board?
And I just want to, I'm not ready to, I think we need to say whether or not we're trying to meet that deadline of December 21st.
In the motion?
Yeah.
Kevin, what is being discussed at the planning board on the 21st? Are there approvals happening?
I don't think this is going for approval, because all the previous ones, they would take it, they would take an initial read and then either do a secret determination or table it for the next meeting for a secret determination. And my understanding is it would have to go to the Heritage Area Commission for an LWRP review, coastal consistency.
So the timeline could be longer than the 21st.
Yeah, and I know that Heritage is not meeting until the last Wednesday of January. They're meeting after the next planning board meeting. So there'll be 2 planning board meetings before there's a coastal review on this, as far as I know.
So to that,
it would help if they had the planning agenda up and we could see the site plan and all that. That's one of the issues here.
So to that effect, there would then be value in Sebastian or Lorraine or Kevin attending the planning board meeting, gathering more information about the actual proposal and the site plan, bringing that back to the CAC in January, and then formulating comments based on what we're currently thinking about, and then any more information we're provided, because maybe answers will be provided then that we have questions about now, and we can have a more informed letter after the presentation. I presume that a representative from Hutton Brickyards would be present on the 21st to present their plan, and then we could have more information to comment.
Most likely. Often it's been Chazen that's been there.
So
I'm going to check again to see if Suzanne or Kyla posted this late, like at the end of the day or something. No, it's not posted yet. It's still not posted. I'll be monitoring when they post it for sure, so that and I can forward the package as soon as it comes in.
Okay, so are there thoughts about the timeline? Because the motion should include whether we're doing it prior to the 21st or using the 21st as information gathering and doing the letter post the 21st.
Well, it would need to be, from what I'm hearing, it would probably be best to do a more comprehensive letter than one that addresses the entire scope of CAC's concerns. Is that what I'm hearing?
That was just a suggestion that I made. That doesn't mean it need to be the way it goes down. I'm asking other people's opinion on it.
No, Lorraine, if you're very concerned, which it seems that you're raising legitimate concerns here, it could be done in as a twofold process.
Okay.
Because we don't have the information on the rest of it, but
yeah.
Trying to see if this article covers the fire pits. I'm not sure that it
I'm looking
does.
here. I have it here. Let's see.
I'm looking at the article from December 1st.
So I got November 11th here. Let's see.
Oh, November 11th.
Yeah.
Wait a second. November 11th. That would be before the previous meeting. I don't recall it at the previous meeting. But let me go look and see if I missed something.
I could send it to everybody.
Oh,
right
maybe there's a site plan out there. I don't recall it. We didn't discuss it at the last meeting. I would have picked that up if I saw it. But it could have been a late entry at that meeting. And I have to find that. So,
I'll send it to you all right now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Here's the November meeting. Okay, let me just run through that agenda really fast and see if they had 200 North Street on there. Recommendation. No, I don't see 200 North Street on here for November.
It says in this article that they're hoping to open the new cabin complex in April. So that's pretty quick. So I'm not sure when it will.
I actually have the article here. I'll just send it in the chat.
Oh, okay. You okay.
Okay, so, I mean, regardless of when the article came out, I mean, does that change whether or not we write a letter or when the timeline of the letter is?
No, because we still don't have a site plan. I'm sure there's one kicking around, but we don't have it, and it hasn't been made public. But that's probably imminent. As soon as planning posts their meeting packet, which they haven't done yet.
Okay. So other than Lorraine, does anyone else have any other thoughts about whether or not if we do a letter, it should happen before or after the meeting? If not, then I'm inclined to say we should wait for more information and then do a letter after the fact.
I think that's a good idea. I also have one more question. Is the Hutton Brickyards in the open space index that we did?
The river access part is.
Okay.
I don't know about the upland part.
And then I have one more.
Yeah, I took Chris Graham back there. Back behind my house. We went along the remnants of Locust Street, and we, saw what we could see from Locust Street, which would have been the wetlands and the uplands.
Right, and certainly
Locust Street's a DMAP street that the city owns, for people that don't know what Locust Street is.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I mean, and certainly the property, the scenic Hudson property, the acquisition of that, certainly contributes to the open space plan. In terms of the Brickyard property itself, that's all encapsulated in what was called Hudson Uplands. So the specific identification there is 500 additional acres of permanently protected land. intact upland forest habitat, important natural habitat and ecological resource area, dramatic scenic overlook opportunities. So that's the sort of thing that would be referenced in the letter.
Yeah, I don't think they plan to develop any of the anywhere near the wetlands or the uplands on the Brickyard property, on the old clay banks. I don't think they're doing that. I mean, at least that's what Mr. Slovan had told me, and his colleagues on several occasions.
Okay.
It's strictly by the, where the brickyard itself was, not where the mining operation was in the back.
Okay. So then I'm going to ask for if there's a motion at this point to draft a letter after the December 21st planning board meeting when more information is gathered with CAC comments towards the development of the Hutton Brickyards, which would be presented to the planning board. Is there a motion?
Yes, Lorraine.
So Lorraine moves. Is there a second?
Second.
Sebastian? Okay, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, unanimous. All
I
right,
just want to make sure we got the wording on that because we have an actual motion. Somebody want to read it back?
would say it was CAC would draft a letter after the December 21st planning board meeting, once more information is gathered, towards a review of the proposed development at Hutton Brickyards.
Okay, got it.
To the planning board. Okay, so
Yeah,
Sebastian, Lorraine, you guys can catch up with Kevin or decide if you want to go to the meeting on the 21st or watch the meeting afterwards or whatever you want to do. And then I would say probably draft something up and have it for us for our review at the January meeting.
Okay.
Perfect.
And,
Okay, anything else?
let's see. So let me just get straight that after we gather the information, further information at the meeting, we'll put together some kind of comments, and they would be more comprehensive comments as they have been in the past with other projects, looking at it as a whole. So then Sebastian would be interested in participating in that letter as well. Is that what I'm gathering?
Yes.
Okay.
So you and Sebastian, need to
Yes.
connect.
I'm sorry?
You and Sebastian need to connect.
And we could give you some examples like the Landmark Place and the Strand site,
Right.
if you don't have those.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it.
Okay, Emily, are you sending those? You got me to.
I'll look for them right now unless you know where they are.
No, you can go ahead.
Okay.
Okay, anything else on air quality?
One last thing. The subcommittee is recommending that we consider doing some sort of moratorium on the installation of new wood burning devices, as they have done in New York City and the San Francisco Bay Area, because there is a lot of proliferation occurring now in neighborhoods with fire pits, all kinds of devices. So I wanted to report that was their recommendation and ask you what that would mean for the entire CAC.
Well, we haven't ever done a moratorium before, but generally we, as in the CAC, haven't moved towards legislation of moratorium, but basically the general process is that whoever is suggesting the moratorium, i.e. your subcommittee, would find other examples of language from other communities, draft up a resolution, present it to the CAC, which we would review, and then we would present that moratorium with background documentation to it would be submitted as a communication to the council, and they would decide whether or not to put it on a subcommittee's agenda and review it for vote.
Okay, I think I got all that.
Now, maybe Kevin knows more. Is a moratorium just a resolution, or is it a local law? We don't do a lot of moratoria around here.
I don't recall. I don't recall a successful one in Kingston. The only one I can remember was the CVS thing, which failed.
Yep. So your committee would have
And
to, or
that was a development moratorium.
through our government.
Yeah, that was a development moratorium. I'm not. This wouldn't affect the zoning necessarily. Might affect the building code. We'd have to be clear about what section of the code we're asking for a moratorium on. If it's 135, whether it's zoning or whether it's new construction.
So the next steps would need to be figuring out exactly where that moratorium would apply.
Yeah.
Understanding how our government actually passes moratoria, and then drafting language for presentation to the CAC for review.
Okay, I think I got it all, but I'll read it when Kevin writes it up later just to make sure.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. That's it for me.
Thank you. Marco, did you have anything else you wanted to contribute on the air quality stuff?
No, I think that's it for me. Thank you.
Great. NRI and open space plan project. I don't actually have anything to report. And if I do, I can't remember what I would report. We're official, and some press has gone out about it. I know that Michelle is interested in working on open space plan, moving things forward. She mentioned that in her notes. But at this point, I don't have anything specific to necessarily report on.
Kingston Land Trust is using it, the vision map as a guide, and the text as well, and the NRI, as it comes up in consideration of our land acquisition criteria.
Great.
On that board.
Great. Okay. Any update on the Socus Creek work? Should we take this off the agenda for the winter, or anyone have anything? No.
The same thing from last month. I mean, when we looked at we were on a Kingston Land Trust meeting last night. I was, and we're on a land use meeting, and we were looking at the Socus Creek in terms of the vision map from the open space plan. But no, there was no specific action.
Okay, I'm going to say that for now we should take this off the agenda unless we see features.
Okay.
Concrete action on the CAC's part. Is everyone okay with that?
Yep.
And certainly at any time, if any of you have anything you'd like to add to the agenda, absolutely let me know, but I just need to know like a week before the meeting. Pedestrian street, anything update on that?
No, nothing really.
Is that something you'd like to keep on the agenda?
I don't think so. No.
Okay. All right. So then moving on to new business. So I circulated the language, which is General Municipal Law 239Y. Now, the establishment of conservation advisory councils is General Municipal Law, New York State General Municipal Law 239X. We're already a conservation advisory council. 239Y references conservation boards, and this is something that is successional to CACs. And according to the legislation, there's a few things that are relevant that we need to understand. One is that there's certain things that we need to do in order to become a conservation board, and then there's actions that need to be taken to become that conservation board. You don't automatically become the conservation board. So just to review those things so that the public and the committee have this all clear. The law goes through, and I'll put this in the chat so that folks can follow along if they'd like. It talks about open areas, which are pretty clear, but here's some things that are important. Conservation open areas inventory is an inventory of open areas within the municipality, with each such area identified, described, and listed according to priority of acquisition or preservation. We do not currently have that. We have an open space and we have a natural resources inventory. Our open space plan is our conservation open areas map, which is letter C that we'll go into in a second. The NRI is a list of all the locations. It is not prioritized. So in order to have this conservation open areas inventory, we would have to prioritize based on a parcel level the preservation or acquisition of specific open space areas. That has not been completed yet. According to this, open areas map is a map or maps identifying open areas within the municipality which are earmarked for preservation, including but not limited to open areas that are required to be set aside out of subdivision plots. That's supposed to be plots typo. Publicly owned open areas preserved by non-public organizations, and open areas having conservation, historical, or scenic significance. In my understanding, in my interpretation of this, we have that. That is our vision map, which is also in the chat. D says open space index. The conservation open areas inventory and conservation open areas map constitute the index after acceptance and approval by the local legislative body. Now we have acceptance and approval of our conservation open areas map. That's our climate action plan. But we don't have the inventory, which is the prioritization. In order to have that completed, the actual index, we would need to do the prioritization and have that approved. That's my interpretation. Does anyone else interpret it differently?
I just want to say you misspoke. You said it was our climate action plan.
Oh, sorry.
And
open space
that's
plan.
okay.
Yes.
And
so then,
no, it sounds right to me.
Okay, so then going on, it says the local legislative body of any city, town, or village which has created a CAC may, by resolution, redesignate such council as a conservation board, provided such council has prepared and submitted to the local legislative body the conservation open area inventory and map, which are accepted and approved by the local legislative body as the open space index of the municipality. Again, we'd have to do the index, we'd have to do the inventory, and then combine it with the open space plan to create the index. And then it goes on, and then they would need to approve that. The common council would need to approve that. So then it says general powers and duties of conservation boards to further assist a city, town, or village in the development of a sound open area planning and ensure preservation of natural and scenic resources on the local level. The conservation board shall. So then if the common council approves the index, which is the combination of the open space plan and the open space inventory, and they determine that we are going to then be a conservation board, if they make that determination, then our authority would be that we would review each application received by the local legislative body or by the building department, zoning board, planning board, board of appeals, or other administrative body which seeks approval for the use or development of any open area listed in the open space index. The Conservation Board shall submit a written report to the referral body within 45 days of receipt of such application. Such report shall evaluate the proposed use or development of the open area in terms of the open area planning objectives of the municipality and shall include the effect of such use or development on the open space index. The report shall make recommendations as to the most appropriate use or development of the open area and may include preferable alternative use proposals consistent with open areas conservation. A copy of every report shall be filed with the legislative body. We would need to make available for public inspection those reports. We would need to notify the DEC of the creation of the Conservation Board within 30 days of the resolution. And we would need to perform any duties assigned to us by resolution of the legislative body. We would continue to be performing the roles of the CAC, and we could request the assistance of the DEC in the preparation of any report. Now, so basically the difference is what would need to happen to become a conservation board. We need to complete the inventory, which means prioritizing the locations. We need to get it approved with the open space plan together, and they need to designate us a conservation board. In which case then all proposals that have a location within the open space index identified, we would then review. We could do all those things without becoming a conservation board, but it would be advisory only, and this is still only advisory, but we wouldn't be doing so based on a resolution establishing our powers to do so. We could make recommendations as we always have in that same way. We may not have the interest among ourselves to do that. We may or may not have the interest among the county council to do that. So let's open this up for discussion. And first of all, does anyone have any questions?
I guess I have
Sebastian?
2 questions. The first one, that list of the inventory, do you have an idea, or does anyone on the call have an idea of what that process looks like and how long it would take to do? And then the second question is, the zoning board would have to go through us under this as opposed to right now where they do not.
Correct.
Is that also correct? Okay.
The second question, correct. They would have to go through us. And that right now they do not. That is the difference. As to your first question, my thought would be that when John Mickelson put together a natural resources inventory, I don't think the process would be very long. Is my short answer. The longer answer is we have all of the parcel data in an Excel spreadsheet, and we can easily go through. We also have talked about priorities before, and actually during the natural resources inventory process, we went through a very rigorous process of rating each specific location based on lots of different criteria. People help me remember. So we looked at, like, is there a wetland present? The value
Proximity to a park,
proximity to a park,
green buffers.
soil quality, like all these different criteria, and we rated them, ranked them, but we didn't end up pulling that all together. And I don't really remember why we didn't pull that all together. We did go through that process though. And I think that ended up helping us create the layers that created the I don't want to say hot spots, but like, yes, we created composite maps that kind of pulled together the areas that had multiple qualities, and that's how we created a vision for the areas we wanted to identify, but we didn't go down to the specific parcel level. So we would basically just need to go back and revisit that. Possibly, like, we could easily rank within the Excel spreadsheets, like find every parcel over 5 acres, or find every parcel that is over 5 acres and is got prime soils and has all these things combined together, and we could do that. And it would probably take a few months at the most if we had someone who just dedicated to do that. That part, the data crunching, would not actually take a long time. I think what might be challenging is what we did come up with when we were pulling together the open space plan, which is right now the open space plan generally shows, in this general upland area, or in this general lowland area, we generally would like to conserve or preserve X number of acres. So right now, we can't say we want to preserve 101 Wilson Avenue. Owner of 101 Wilson Avenue, we're going to identify your location. It's not been that personal up till now. The index and the inventory, or the inventory, would get to the parcel level, and it would say, owner at 101 Wilson Avenue, your parcel is now identified for preservation. And so I don't know if the council would approve that or not. There was concern by some on the council and by some in the community to that process up till now.
I could see two problems. One of them would be the Kingston Wilderness property. They had objected to, that'd be Rob Iannucci. He had objected at some point to the open space vision map because of the Rondout uplands. And I went to the Cornell building and had a meeting with Dan Proctor, who is his associate or consultant, whatever. And yeah, we discussed this, and that the vision map was not what we're doing, not what we're talking about now. It was just a vision map. And that's sort of, we got, I don't believe he made public comment after that. I don't think.
I think, without even picking out, oh, sorry. I think that without even looking specifically, we know that we know from other communities that this can be difficult, and it can be difficult because of naming names and naming sites and locations. And so that's, and then also still, even after you do that, being approved to be a board. And it can be a difficult thing, and it might be worth it to talk to some communities that are boards. For instance, the town of Esopus, and other ones up and down the river. And so that's that, we've talked about the issues right now are the two things that are just right in the legislation: ranking actual lists with property names, and then getting the legislature, the Common Council, to accept it, and then to support this council becoming a board.
Yeah, the other property that ranked pretty high when we were reviewing it at Kingston Land Trust was Lawton Park. And there's sort of a rush to rezone that for development as we speak. So like Emily said, this can become a very political process very quickly. We would be well advised, I think, to speak to the other communities. Remember when Hurley presented to us early on in I think we were still in the NRI process, or maybe we were just beginning that, and they had problems with their open space plan. Yeah,
I just want to contribute to the conversation. Michelle Hirsch's comments, and I will refer to her other comments in a moment, but she did say she is sorry to miss the discussion regarding the legislation for Conservation Board. Her comments would be that the zoning code would need to be updated to accommodate this section of the CAC. I don't know. I can't really speak to that. I don't know that that's the case or not.
Again, we should look to another community, and if we can't get the answer there, DOS will have the answer to that.
Okay, so other discussion about it? What other thoughts?
I mean, maybe Kevin can speak to this. I think it's a great idea to check with other communities. But are there certain benefits that might be felt in Kingston because of the Kingston Land Trust, where if we work to identify those parcels and prioritize them, that's doing some work for the land trust and helping to identify those as well, and identifying kind of points of common interest. Is that I'm thinking of that as a check in the column for this is a good idea.
You think it's a good idea, or you think to leave Kingston Land Trust out of it? I'm not sure.
I was curious what your thoughts were.
Well, I think Kingston Land Trust has been, I mean, I've been on their board like since, not as long, well, Julie was there in the very beginning, and I was there shortly thereafter that. So, yeah, I've been involved in the land use analysis and developing acquisition criteria there for a long time. And that sort of, we've been following, went back and forth between what the Land Trust was doing and what the CAC was doing. When John Nicholson at the time, when he was developing this index that you can, Excel spreadsheet that you can develop prioritization from that spreadsheet. And we went back and forth a few times, but I think we're on the same page as to where the areas of overall priority are. Kingston Land Trust may also go into some small parcels for agriculture and partner with like Emily Flynn and Grow Well Kingston and Live Well Kingston on other stuff, or with Novo or, somebody, whoever it is, which might not be, some of those parcels might not reach the same level of priority using John Nicholson's criteria. We'd have to look carefully at that. But for the most part, the three main areas over where Scenic Hudson is, Quarry Waters, the Rondout Uplands, and the Esopus Corridor are the three principal areas that they've identified in the vision map and that Kingston Land Trust has been looking at. But like I say, Kingston Land Trust is also looking at, other small parcels like 78 Franklin Street to do a, pollinator thing and another little community thing with Jared. So there's other stuff that they're doing besides the overall vision map.
I thought Sebastian's question was just if the CAC came up with this list, would it help the mission of the land trust? And I think you've answered it. The idea is what are the advantages? The advantages are that if we're a board, then we can try to actually protect something when it comes up for development, and we have more clout than if we just said, wow, that's a really great piece. It meets our general criteria, but we don't have the specific, we wouldn't have any review except for what we do now. So I think we should keep, in my opinion, we should just keep talking about this and start talking to some other communities and think about the pros and cons. And map out a process.
I agree with that. I have one more question too on this index that John Mickelson created. Should I just look for the open space plan, and would there be like a detailed explanation of what that process was in there? Or do we know offhand? I'm thinking about also like proximity to affordable housing and preserving open space in that way.
Yeah, I can't remember if we referenced it in the natural resources inventory or the open space plan or both. I will, certainly you can go to, where's the chat? If you go to kingston-ny.gov/NRI, everything is there. But the actual spreadsheet is not there. It was not part of the NRI or the open space.
No.
So I can, what I can do is I can circulate to you all the actual criteria. I have to remind myself, this feels like a long time ago now, but I know that we looked at we did a ranking system of 1 or 2 or 3 points. Emily, you were involved in this too, right? And Kevin?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll circulate that. We looked at a lot of criteria, a lot.
But I don't think it was included anything about affordable housing or
No.
whether it was 5 units or 1 unit or anything like that. It was much more about, distance to a park or a buffer around a park, because of course if you could acquire more parcels around a park, or, if there's a lack of open space in a certain area. I think we even looked at that, like a non-park area.
Right. Okay, so in terms of next steps from here, I would say this would be the discussion certainly under the NRI and open space project agenda item. But in the meantime, are there specific actions that folks want to take before our next meeting? Does anyone want to volunteer to reach out to a certain community to speak with them about their experience? I'll certainly will circulate the criteria that we looked at. You can take a look at that. We can look at it next month. I mean, over the next month, and discuss it then at that time and see, with more information there.
I'm wondering, is there a list of communities that have a conservation board?
Yes. So if you go to the New York State Association,
DEC?
No, NISAC.
NISAC.
So I'll put the website in the chat.
Okay, I can probably start looking at some of that and seeing, try to, ascertain what had happened, and then figure out which ones might be the ones we want to talk to. But Emily, you may know some of this off the top of your head. And I'd be sort of starting from scratch here, but I can do it. We should have that list anyway.
Okay, so it's right here.
Okay.
I'm putting it in the chat. It has all of them in the whole state, and it also has the link to their website. So It's broken down based on region, and so it's listed either as a board or a commission. So you can very quickly just go to our region if you want to go, region 3, and then.
Yeah, region 3, right. We'll go right there.
Medford, Carmel.
Okay. This is really helpful. Yeah.
So, the list is
Goshen.
Newcastle,
Right, I see it.
Castle, Pauling, Town Ridge. There's not a lot compared to how many CACs there are: Warwick, White Plains, Yorktown. I will say though, we have to take this with a grain of salt, because there is no actual, sort of like using the word natural, there's no actual legislation on the terminology of what you call CACs. Some actually call themselves boards, even though they're not really technically boards.
Well, that would be part of the analysis, yeah. If it turns out they're just a council calling themselves a board, and I see a few of them call themselves committees. So,
yes.
Yeah.
So,
and Rosendale calls themselves a commission, right? And so does Rochester, town of Rochester.
Yep.
Yeah.
So Kevin's going to look through the boards. We're all going to take a look at the criteria, and then we'll circle back.
Yeah.
January.
Can I see? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
One of the things that's kind of related to that we are not, I know that Julie might be tracking this, but is the use of a real estate tax to go towards buying open space? And New
Yeah.
Paltz, that just passed in New Paltz, and I believe Red Hook has one of those, but are we supposed to be tracking that, or is that happening in a different place in government?
Yeah, so that, you're talking about the Community Preservation Act.
Community
And
preservation.
yes, so yeah, New Paltz did just adopt that. We are following that very closely with the Land Trust. Actually, we were in regular communication and meetings regarding advancing that within the city, talking with the Trust for Public Land, Scenic Hudson, the Land Trust, and the City of Kingston, and in communication with New Paltz. We actually had a debrief meeting about a week or so ago with New Paltz to understand how their process went. Just quickly to go over it, I think we might have talked about this at a previous meeting, but basically it would involve local legislation permitting the Community Preservation Act, and then it would have to go to referendum on the ballot, and it would need to be voted on by the community. So that's a two-part process, one of which can be done by city employees. The actual process of we actually have to create a community preservation plan, which is a combination of the open space plan, historic plans, and many other things, but specifically down to the parcel level. So this would be part of that, and identifying those locations, that would have to be part of that process. And then, but representatives from the city like myself cannot actually advocate for a referenda. So then it would need to be a community process like the Land Trust moving forward towards getting it on the ballot. It also involves a large campaign, very big public campaign, and also a lot of fundraising. New Paltz raised thousands of dollars, and also the opposition spent more than $150,000 against the plan in New Paltz. So we are in very close conversations about whether or not we want to move forward with that. But the key to that is that there needs to be a community partner that's fully on board, because the city staff can't move it to referendum. So I can keep you posted on that, and we'll continue to talk about that as part of this process. But right now we haven't fully decided. The next step is actually meeting very closely with the Land Trust to understand what the role of the Land Trust would be.
What is the difference between the list that you have to come up with and the one that would be an open space inventory?
The difference with the community preservation plan? The community preservation plan is an actual new plan that, and I can't really articulate exactly what it is in terms of, my understanding is that it's basically a combination of your open space plan and your historic plans and other cultural plans pulled together to identify to the parcel level preservation of land that would be done by assessing a fee on real estate purchases of over a certain value.
Yeah.
So the logistics of how that actually happens, I'm not really sure. I don't exactly know the contents of what the plan involves, but my understanding after talking to the Trust for Public Land and Scenic Hudson is that our open space plan is very close to being a community preservation plan, except for it needs to be down to the parcel level. So even to move forward with that, we would need to do this index on the inventory.
Sounds like there's definitely some overlap.
Yes.
Potentially.
Yeah.
But it could be more historic, like.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so this is a great conversation. Is there anything else people want to contribute to this conversation now? If not, we've kind of got a couple things to move forward, and we'll continue this conversation at the next month's meeting.
Is it overstepping to see it in those meetings that you're having about the Community Preservation Fund or Community Preservation Act? you're attending those, and should there be like a CAC person there, or could there be a CAC person there to?
Right now, the conversations have been extremely internal in the administration.
Okay.
So it's really, do we want to do this at all?
Yeah.
And there is not really a lot of question about whether we want to do it. It's really a question of who's going to do it. We need a really strong team of like 25 to 30 people that are mostly community members. And so the conversations right now are just strategy towards how would this actually get done. There is strong support from the current administration to do this though. So I would say there will absolutely be a role for the CAC, but it's not yet.
Yeah. Okay. Maybe just a couple of cents of my thoughts. I'd be down on, I think there's such an opportunity here for like a wealth tax, anti-gentrification tax, and like targeting households over a certain income or a certain value. And I feel like those issues right now are striking at the heart of a lot of people in Kingston. And if you structure this in a way that it only is going to apply to the top 1 or 10% of households, I feel like that would be, if they could open doors politically.
Okay, understood. Other comments at this point? Okay, so then we are going to move on, if that's all right. Any communication? There were no communications. Actually, I will give an update. Oh no, that will happen under public safety. Announcements or events, I do have one, and I circulated it. There will be a Department of Environmental Conservation annual update focused just for conservation advisory councils and conservation boards. There will be a representative from many different departments in DEC. It's going to be December 15th from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. And you do have to register. I will put the registration in the chat. Subsequent to that meeting, which I hope folks can attend, and I will send you, if you haven't, I will actually forward you the agenda so that if you only want to go to part of the day or whatever, you can. After that, the New York State Association of Conservation Commissions, NYSAC, is having an annual meeting as well on the same date from 1:30 to 3. So the registration for that meeting, for the CAC meeting, is in the chat, but I will also just circulate that via email to everyone, and you can have that there. Just quickly, the agenda includes the divisions of communication services, climate change, water, fish and wildlife, lands and forests, materials management, communication services, again, and also an update from the New York State Association of Conservation Commissions. So this is being widely broadcast around the state, and hopefully lots of people can attend. Any other announcements or events? Okay, moving on to updates, reports, complete streets. Lorraine?
There will be a meeting coming up. I will not be going. There's nothing being discussed as to the sidewalk task force right now, but I am participating in the Flatbush Foxhall imagining meetings. So that's it for now.
Okay. Planning board, Kevin, is there anything you didn't cover?
Oh, well, like I mentioned before, they haven't posted the agenda yet, and I believe we already reviewed Hutton Brickyard. There's also been some discussion continuing on the temporary use variances. I'm not sure. Yeah, okay. If there's been a resolution on that yet, though. And I think Michelle reported on the status in her email of the livestock and poultry, where that was at.
Yeah, I'll
I
go
had
over
a-
that in a second.
I had a question. Has anything come up about Golden Hill?
Yes, and that came up in conjunction with Lawton Park, and I believe Don Talaman rather was told by Suzanne to rephrase what he was doing on Lawton because of he was triggering a secret filing because it was more than 25 acres. And I'm not sure if the 25 acres included Golden Hill. I believe it did because it was like one proposal to rezone both of them. I believe the county has to still weigh in on Golden Hill. They did pick a proposed developer, but I think there's still outstanding planning issues with that and zoning.
But I assume that there actually is no kind of site plan or anything yet, right? That's too soon?
I think that's too soon. I think they were starting with changing the zoning first. And that's where they got caught up on the 25 acres. They triggered a secret review on the zoning by doing that. So now I think they may be trying to split the law. It would help if I had the planning agenda, it would tell us. I think they're trying to split Lawton off from Golden Hill, but we'll have to see how the agenda reads.
Well, what I wanted to know is there even talk about, like, are these like individual parcels, or is it going to be an area where you're going to have dense and then an area that would remain open? And is that option? Has anyone thought about that?
I think a number of us have been very concerned about that.
Yeah.
At Lawton in particular, because there are several parcels there. And if you applied multiple dwelling zoning there, you could end up with a sprawlish situation. There are already open space components written into the zoning where you can, in the bulk regulations, where you can only build a certain amount and you have to have setbacks and blah, blah, blah. But still, I would envision a sprawl there. Golden Hill, I'm not as sure about.
Is there an option to, I forget the word, what's the word when you take a big parcel and you set aside, especially, an area that is used by everyone, and then it's not a
common area.
Plan. It's a common area, but it
will be an open space component to the development. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And
is
haven't
that
seen
allowed?
Plan for that.
Is that allowed in our land use laws?
Well, in the zoning, the bulk regulations, in fact, require that. But if you have multiple parcels, they could get around this, and you could end up with a sprawl. They'd still have to keep what if it's 40% or 60%. I'm confused. I can't remember. One or the other has to be not built on. Remain open space, and then you're supposed to cluster it. But if you have all these parcels next to each other, they have cluster, and pretty soon it's a sprawl, right?
Right, I see what you mean.
That's the fear.
Yeah,
that's been the fear throughout this whole process. That I don't know if they've thought this out.
I see. Okay. Well, it just seems like those areas could potentially, might be nice to have something like that.
Yeah, it might be how they configure the lot line adjustments when the dust settles. If we're all one lot, like there was one Lawton Park or one Golden Hill that's to be developed by Penrose or whoever the developer is, that would work really well with the current zoning. But it would work. I don't know if it would work really well, but it would work. But the way it is now, I'm not sure because of the multiple parcels involved.
Okay. Anything else from public or planning board?
No, I don't think so. Till we get that agenda, and then I'll alert everybody when it comes out. I'll just keep looking for it.
Okay, great, thank you. Public safety, Michelle's report. She said she doesn't have anything to report from public safety, but she does have other council issues to report on. Required citywide affordable housing zoning amendment. She said that the Council Laws and Rules Committee has not set a public hearing yet, even though comments have been received from the City of Kingston Planning Board and Historic Landmarks Preservation Commission in May, and comments from the Ulster County Planning Board were received in June. She said that she made a motion on the floor at last week's council meeting to discuss scheduling a hearing as soon as possible, but the committee still does not have a hearing date set up yet, citing a tight schedule due to the holidays and wanting to have Dennis Doyle from the Ulster County Planning Board explain the recommendations. The agricultural zoning law regarding chickens, she said the council voted to refer to the City of Kingston Planning Board, Ulster County Planning Board, and Historic Landmarks Preservation Commission for comment. She had to recuse herself from the vote as she does own a few hens. And she also said that she was able to volunteer with the land trust last week at the Wilbur Uplands, pulling out invasive species that have taken root since the clear cutting that occurred last year. She said that it was a beautiful day and the acquisition of that land was an amazing asset to the city and Ward 9. She's happy to see the preservation happen so quickly after last year's clear cutting, and that she would watch tonight's meeting to follow up with us after the fact. Any comments or concerns about those notes? Okay. Zoning, anything?
Yes, I had a question. I'm sorry.
Yep.
What are they defining as affordable? You know, affordable housing, is there a definition?
I don't know the answer to that.
Okay.
I think a percentage of the median income, but what that percentage is, I have to look it up. I don't have it off the top of my head.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I just remember when they had ADR, affordable was defined as something that like a policeman or a fireman or a teacher could afford. And as you know, and it's lower than market rate, but it's not low income.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know.
So that's why
I think that's the
we
difference
wanna-
between workforce housing and affordable housing. I think there's two different things there.
Yeah. So anyway,
Yeah.
it is good to know that definition.
Yeah, we
And
could probably get that from Michael Gilliard off the top of his head.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, zoning, anything? So zoning?
Well, we covered a lot of zoning here already, but the only new thing that came up specifically was at Growwell, they've taken an interest in the ag zoning and have formed a subcommittee of where Growwell already is a subcommittee of Livewell, so they formed a subcommittee to look at zoning, and I sent them a lot of information on form-based code. And, they already have the information on the agricultural thing that Jennifer Schwartz-Berkey had done, or Jennifer Schwartz-Berkey O'Donnell had done, rather. Yeah, so it's there's an interest over there. So if and when we want to push for a form-based code, we have a group in the city that's, interested. And we have people from Novo on it and other groups that are involved in these meetings at Growwell. The other meeting I attended on Friday was with Andrea Strout and Jeffrey on zoning and how to get the zoning proposal up and running. Apparently, there's several council members that are in favor of doing this, including Don Tallerman. But there's a number that aren't. And Chief Andrea indicated to us that we would need a majority on the council to move the zoning forward. And whether they've looked into grants, I'm not sure that was going to cover it. They might have to bond. I'm not really sure how this would be done. But the financing would have to be approved by the Common Council. So 5 votes are necessary, and that's where we were left on. We have we were back and forth with ideas and how to get this going.
So do you know what the next step is?
Yeah, Andrea put up a Google Doc page, and we're contributing to it with different ideas. The people that attended on this included Ted from the Land Trust, Ted Greasy, me, Tanya Garment, Anthony Tampone, who's very well versed in this. He was on the zoning task force, with me, and we talked about possibly getting Tony from the ZBA involved, because he's also, when you have these zoning problems, he's the person who ends up with the problem. It ends up at somebody coming for either a use or an area variance when the zoning doesn't work right. And, he was very supportive on the zoning task force of the form-based code concept. So that, he's just not just, doing ruling on his board isn't just ruling on variances constantly. And you just have you have a code, and then there's all these variances, exceptions to the rule. We should have community input on the form-based code, and that's where the bulk of the cost is in the community input. There have been some people that have kicked around, how could we do it a lot cheaper? And typically it's the community input is where what gets chopped out of that discussion. And then you have a top-down approach, which, So this will be continued. It's too late for the December council meeting for anything to go over there. So we'll be working on this over the next couple of weeks and see where we're at.
Okay. Great. Thanks for the update. Climate Smart. Let's see. Kevin, do you want to give an update?
Let me pull out my Climate Smart minutes. If you want to start, I can, on the special presentation we had, that would help, and I'll fill in the blanks from there.
Yep. We had a special presentation on the New York State Stretch Energy Code. We have had a presentation in the past, about a year ago now, but we got another update today, this past month, from the folks that are really working on Stretch Energy Code from NYSERDA, and it was our code enforcement officer, Steve Knox, was also present, director of the Building Safety Division. Not the code enforcement officer, the director of the building safety department. And he was there and present, and it was actually a great meeting. Jess Coonan from Sea Grant is really spearheading getting everything together to look at our stretch code, and it seems like the Climate Smart Kingston Commission is going to really help to steward that forward towards adoption. So that was good advancement that we had there. We did also talk about a recycling marketing campaign that we're going to be doing. We're just finalizing that now. It's going to be a pizza box non-recycling campaign. So we're printing about 15,000 stickers that were designed by Climate Smart that are a little pizza box that say that pizza boxes are not recyclable. And we're going to be giving them to the 15 different pizza places, and they're going to be putting them on boxes for a short period of time, and so that folks can understand that pizza boxes are trash in our area, unfortunately. So that's our latest campaign we're going to be doing there. I probably gave an update on the LED project. I have just about signed off on is substantial completion. Effectively, they are substantially complete. There's a few punch list items that need to be completed, but the project is going to be signed off on by the end of this year. And we are hiring a new environmental asset manager. So Sean Coster has moved on to a different job. So we are going to be doing interviews next week. We got a really robust response to that position, more than 30 applicants. So we're going to be doing interviews and hiring for that position starting in January. And I don't know what else is going on. There's a lot of other parks projects moving forward. The organics diversion plan is still being drafted. And that's probably it for now. Anything else, Kevin?
Yeah, I think you covered most of it. Let's see, organics.
Yeah, just talked about that.
Right. The climate adaptive design.
Oh yeah, climate adaptive design is wrapped up, but our climate action plan, I did want to just bring that up as well, is that we're going to have a public kickoff meeting for the climate action plan 2030 on January 14th at 5:30, and you're going to be seeing lots of press go out about that. We're just pulling that all together. The Engage Kingston website is going to be hosting surveys and everything else to really gather information on how to thoughts and principles on how we should move that forward. So keep an eye out for that.
Okay, that's the new date, January 14th for the, okay.
January 14th at 5:30.
Right.
Okay, any update from the Ulster County EMC, Emily?
The EMC has not met because in November and December we do meet at one meeting. So we're actually meeting tomorrow, but I did want to say that the stream classification was vetoed by the governor. And that's really all I know. I can talk a little bit more about that if anyone has
Do we have any idea why he vetoed it?
Oh, someone said, yes, let me just, I'm sorry. Someone said that for one thing, he felt like the soil and water conservation districts could protect the streams. And if you give me a minute, I can find something, sorry. Oh, and so while I'm waiting, here it is. So he cited physical constraints in his veto. It would double the miles of stream subject to oversight by the DEC. The workload of the DEC alone, they just couldn't do it without adding a lot of full-time staff. And of course, and it would lead to lengthy permitting delays and jeopardizing the thorough and necessary review of all projects. And he did say that the existing soil and water conservation districts is one avenue the state uses to address impacts on Class C streams.
Okay.
Yeah, and I would also say that tomorrow the EMC is meeting, and we usually do have guest speakers, and this time it's going to be the the coordinator of the Lower Hudson Partnership for Regional Invasive Species.
Oh, great.
So that and her name is Dr. Linda Rodler, and that's at 7 o'clock. If you're interested, I can get, I'm sorry, it's at 6:30. And it's at 6:30 tomorrow, and if you want to get the Zoom information, let me know, because I can tell you how to do that. And that's usually at the very beginning of the meeting.
Okay. Great, share that with us, thank you. Anything else from the EMC?
Nope.
Okay, tree commission, I attended the meeting today. It was brief, but they discussed a tree that was taken down on Newkirk and the actions that are going to be taken there. They're going to be stumping that stump there and then fixing the sidewalk and then replanting a tree. And also on the corner of Hoffman and Mary's Avenue, there were a few trees taken down. So that is being addressed by the commission. And also important is that they are going to be meeting in January to create a strategy and a plan for applying for future funding for tree plantings and tree, I don't think they talked about more tree removal, but tree plantings. And so they're going to be putting together that proposal and then working with the grants management office to seek funding for tree plantings. Are there any other reports or updates? Okay, our next meeting, if we are going to assume that in January we are going to be meeting on the same schedule, our meeting would be on the 12th. At that meeting, we'll vote for secretary and chair, and we will vote. We'll determine this meeting schedule for the year and the liaisons to the different boards for the year. So do I have a quorum for January 12th? Is there anyone who can't?
Yeah.
Yes.
Everyone can make it?
I think so, yeah.
Okay, so is there any other business? If not, I need a motion to adjourn.
Are we gonna send in a annual report this year?
Yes, we are.
Sorry.
Nope, that's fine. I will work on that. It is on my list. Okay, anything else? Can I get a motion to adjourn?
Motion?
Evan,
Second.
Lorraine, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. It is 7:47. I want to thank everyone for a great year. I hope that everyone stays healthy and safe and that you have a great rest of 2020 and New Year, and that you celebrate the beginning of a new one in 2021.
Thank you. And same to you.
Same to you. Thank you.
No.
Thanks for having